Looks like we're on fire there just a little bit. We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House.
You have to have a sense of humor when you own an old house.
You say that a lot.
I do, but it's so true.
It is true.
Okay, what happened last night?
Last night, I discovered a big problem. All 4 light bulbs don't blow out at the same time.
No.
What's the problem? And then there's more.
We're in the main bedroom, and when I turn the lights on, nothing happens. So I've got no lights in here, no lights in there, and watch this. Here's the bathroom. No lights in here either, no fan. Although this one over here works. This is the bedroom light fixture. So I'm looking at the lights here. The bulbs actually look fine. The filaments seem intact. So I've got my electrical tester and I want to see if there's any. There's electrical energy there. Now, how is it possible that you have electrical energy at a light bulb, but the light bulb doesn't work? See if you can figure that out. Leave that one in the comments. There's only one explanation for that, but let me show you something else. This pull chain is energized. Why is this pull chain energized? It's not supposed to be. We're standing here with our trusty voltmeter, and I want to find out what's going on here with this pull chain. So I'm going to put one end into the neutral on this extension cord. And then we'll touch the other lead to it. And what do you have for a reading?
45, 46.
46 volts AC is on this pull chain. That's weird. All right, let's go to the hot side. From hot to the chain is what?
11.
11 volts. So there's definitely some voltage leaking on to this pull chain. That's an electrical safety hazard. It just shows you how messed up the wiring is in this house. All right, there's one more test I want to do. I'm going to turn this switch off, and I want to see if there's still any energy over here. There's not supposed to be, but there is. So this light is energized whether the switch is on or off. That's not good. All right, this is the original fuse box for the house. It's got a nice lid here. Porcelain, fuse sockets, knife switches. I mean, what's wrong with that, right? Yeah, so we established in previous videos that these 2 sets of wires here are 120 volts, meaning you have one is the hot and one is the return, and I'll prove that again with the meter. So I'll go across this and this, 120 volts right there. All right, so that means that these branch circuits here, one of the fuses is on the hot side, the other fuse is on the return or the neutral side, which is not something that's done in electrical code. So let's just take a look at here. I see fuses. They all look pretty good, except this one here. That one there looks kind of sketchy. So let's take a reading across this fuse and see what's going on. I have 37 volts, probably leakage current. But what that does tell us is that because we don't have 120 volts there, that we have a blown fuse. See, over on this block here, I've got 120 volts. On this block, I've got 120 volts. On this block, I've got 0 volts. And just kind of looking at the fuse, it does look funny. It's got a kind of a hazy, shadowy look on the glass. So I'm going to say that fuse is blown. Question is why? Well, we've been hearing the squirrel which has been getting back in lately, up in this area here. And I believe that squirrel chewed on some wiring, caused a short circuit, and the fuse did what it was supposed to do and blow. What we don't know is there a wire hazard up there, or did the squirrel just get across it and the current going through the squirrel blew the fuse? We just don't know. By the way, all this white stuff you see in here, that's not paint, that's asbestos. The entire fuse box is completely surrounded in it, presumably, including the lid, presumably that if there were a fire in here, the asbestos would contain it. Well, it may or it may not, I just don't know. But anyway, we've got asbestos in our house. I'm going to take out the fuse carefully. This is an antique bus, type W 30 amp fuse, and it sits in there and waits for too much current to flow. If it does get too much current, the thing gets hot, it melts and opens the circuit. Now, it's made of ceramic. It has a window on the front so you can look in, and it has threads on the bottom, much like a light bulb, but they're not interchangeable. For the next test, I'm going to shut down the house's electrical system because I don't want any power on the wires when I'm testing them. Now I'm going to make sure that the circuit is dead, completely dead. I should see no voltage here, and there is none. So now it's safe to work on. Now I'm going to measure across from the bus to the circuit itself. With the fuse out, I'm only looking at that one circuit and nothing else. And I have, apparently, nothing, which is good. We don't want to see a 0 or something super low because that would be a short circuit. So right now, it's looking really good. So bear with me just a second, and I'm going to go turn the light on in the other room. Okay, we'll do the same test now with the light switch turned on. We should see some kind of a reading. Well, the good news is there's no short circuit there. So let's take a brand new fuse, also made by Bus, but this one's not antique. It's a type T 30 amp, which is the same rating as the one before it. We don't know if that's the right rating or just something someone put in there once. You know what I really love are these old glass fuses. The old antique ones. Just a big chunk of glass, and you can look right down inside there and see the element. Okay, we don't know whether this was a nuisance trip or not, or if there's really a problem out there. But my meter showed that there was no problem. Let's close this up and we'll throw the breaker back on and see what happens. Okay, now that we're ready to test the system, we'll go ahead and turn the power back on. The breaker's back on. Let's see how the fuse fared. Mechanically, it looks okay. Let's put the meter back on volts and see if there's power across there. 120 volts, so the fuse held. That means there's no problem in the wiring, at least at this point in time. Let's go turn the light on and see what happens. We'll start with the bathroom. The bedroom. That works. And the tool room. Okay, well, there it is. The question now is, why did the fuse blow? And the answer is, we don't know. It could have been a nuisance trip. It could have been the squirrel getting up there and chewing on the wire and causing a short circuit through its body. I like to think that that would have done the squirrel in so that we don't have to worry about it anymore. But at the end of the day, the fuse blew. We found no electrical problem, and we put it back together, and so we'll run with it and see what happens. So let's get back to the question of why was there energy on the light fixture when there was no energy on the light fixture. It seems like a mystery, but if we sketch this out on a diagram, it's actually very clear. So this diagram shows a typical circuit. You have the hot side, you have a fuse or breaker, and then you have a switch, and then you have the load, which is the light bulb, And then finally, you have the neutral back to the main box. Back in the old days, before electrical codes were enforced, some electricians had a bad habit of building the circuit so that it looked like this. You had the hot through a fuse or a breaker, and then back through to the neutral to the box. Well, that's not good, because if you turn the switch off, you still have energy because the hot wire is still connected to the bulb, which means if you stick your finger in the socket, you could get zapped just as easily. In the case of this house, it was even worse because they built the circuit backwards by putting the switch in the neutral side, but they also fused the neutral side and the hot side. So both the hot and the neutral had a fuse on them. In this case, the neutral fuse blew, which means that energy was allowed to go from the hot side through a fuse to the load, to the switch, and it stopped at the fuse. So that entire branch circuit was hot. Not good, and definitely not code-worthy. Well, we're back out here by the electrical panel, and we're just about ready to call for inspection. So I need to fill that trench back in. Okay, that takes care of that. Let's talk about bonding for a second. This is our ground wire. It goes down, it connects to a rod that's driven 8 feet into the ground. Over there, 6 feet away, is another ground rod that's driven 8 feet into the ground. And this wire connects the box to that ground rod, and then it continues on uninterrupted to the other ground rod. And so that's our grounding system. It ties everything firmly down to ground potential. Now, the code says that gas pipes must also be grounded or bonded, as they call it. And so we thought we'd have to take a wire and connect here and go all the way across the house underneath and connect to the gas meter. But we got to reading the code and doing a little bit of research, and we discovered that if the appliance that's connected to the gas pipe is connected to ground by way of its electrical connection, then it doesn't need an additional bond. So we have two appliances in this house that are connected to gas. One's the furnace. It has a ground that comes back to this panel here, and by extension comes down and connects up to this ground rod that's down here in the old system. Well, we also have the gas dryer. But the gas dryer has a brand new circuit which also goes to this panel here. It's also grounded. So by definition of code, both appliances which are connected to the gas pipe are grounded by way of their electrical connection. And that's it. No further action is needed. So I'm proud to announce this system is ready for inspection. So the county inspector will come out next, and he'll give it a good look over, and he'll either say, yes, I like it, or he'll say, heck no, and give us a bunch of things to fix. But we're hoping for the yes. Restoring old houses is a dangerous business. Let me illustrate by telling you a story about what happened last weekend. After we'd finished work for the day, we were cleaning up, and I was walking back to the house, and I spotted a pin laying on the ground that Jeannie had dropped accidentally. I bent over to pick up this pin, and something in my back went out, and I was basically laid up for the next 2 days and couldn't move. And I was on an ice pack, a hot pack, and lots of Advil, trying to get over that. So I have no idea why. I didn't really do anything crazy there, but it just happened, and that was it. So anyway, be careful out there if you're restoring old houses, but especially be careful if you bend over to pick up a pin.
Never being to the south before, I had no idea it actually got this cold. We have a winter storm warning. Tonight is supposed to get freezing rain, possibly, and then tomorrow is supposed to snow 2 to 3 inches, possibly. I really honestly never thought the South ever got snow. I was wrong. Looking back in history, I've seen that there has been 5 different times where they've had over 10 inches of snow here. That blew my mind. So, we'll keep you updated on our little storm.
Well, good morning, everybody. Look what we woke up to. So who says it never gets cold in the South? It definitely gets cold in the South. This is really not what it looks like. It's not snow, it's actually sleet. It's kind of a semi-frozen rain. It's not exactly freezing rain, but it's kind of somewhere between, I don't know, snow and ice pellets. But anyway, it's cold out here. The ground is really slippery, and really nobody's driving. I mean, there's a few tire tracks out there, but it is cold and it is slippery. And the whole area is pretty much on lockdown right now because nobody's getting out of their houses. Nobody wants to get out of their houses, and I surely don't want to be out of my house because the wind is blowing hard and it's really cold. I think we need to go inside and do something different. A couple of hours have elapsed since we were out here last time. There's now about 3 inches of snow sitting on top of the ice, and this is what it looks like. Winter wonderland in South Carolina in January. Today is a great day. It's sunny, it's warming up, so let's go ahead and do some more paint scraping. Some people said it was really satisfying to hear the paint hit the floor. Looks like we're on fire there just a little bit. There we go. The temperature in this room is just above freezing, and I'm having a hard time doing this because the wood, being ice cold, is sucking up all the heat that I'm putting into it. And it's still able to break the paint bond. But it cools down so quickly that by the time I get down and try to do a second pass on the scraper, it's already cooled off. So it's fun. A little challenge. Truth be told, though, I really don't want to do this in the heat of summer. This is like Michelangelo in reverse. This is definitely slower than it normally is when the weather is more temperate. Usually I put it up here and count to 3 and it's bubbling. It's taking about twice as long now with the cold air. Not just the cold air, but the fact the wood is freezing cold. There isn't any insulation up in the attic. I'd sure love to have some steam radiators right now. Nope, we're on fire. There we go. My feet were getting sore from standing up on that thing for so long in the cold, so I thought I'd come down here near the floor and do something a little bit easier. The specially shaped tool has all kinds of different shapes, rounds, flats, different angles, different radiuses, and it makes it real easy to get into tight spots. This room is starting to look better every time we touch it. More paint disappears and more natural wood appears underneath. So, how about this door frame right here? Would you like to see what's under that paint? I'll bet you would. Look at that. More southern pine. How about this door right here? Would you like to see what's under the paint? I'll bet you would. Look at that. Look at that beautiful wood. All right, let's swing around here and have a look at the windows. How about the window frame? I'll bet you'd like to see what's under that paint. I know you would. Look at that. It helps to leave the heat on there long enough to get it off. Yeah, look at that beautiful wood under there.
This room is looking so good with the paint off.
Yes, it is.
I'm loving it.
It's amazing.
And the whole room looks better all cleaned up so that we can make a big mess next time.
Right. But it's always nice to start with a clean room and then mess it up again. It was just getting to the point where it was inches of paint chips on the floor and every time you take a step, it would crunch. So
Yeah.
now we can start afresh. Anyhow, well, thanks for watching another episode of 1834 Restoration House, and we will see you next week.